All right, welcome to the Chantay Golson Show, where every entrepreneur wants to dive in, grab your coffee, grab your tea, because we're going to be talking about some meaty and juicy information for you. You know that this podcast is all about burnout recovery, helping those in their executive field as well as a small business owner to recover burnout and or prevent themselves from going through the experience of burnout. We know that burnout is a tumultuous thing in which we don't even realize we're in burnout until it's almost too late. And so we have a special guest today. Her name is Kathleen Fitzgerald, and she's going to be involved with the conversation with me on today about this subject matter, providing us meaty and juicy information that we can take from this podcast today and we can begin to implement it in our lives. So one thing that I want to share with you about Kathleen is that she has the experience that we have gone through in terms of burnout. She was working long hours in the corporate world, and she used to rely on low carb diets and intense workouts as a form of self-care. But it wasn't until she reached the burnout that she realized that these tools were actually further contributing to her stress levels. And now that's quite interesting. Now she focuses on listening to her body to understand what it needs instead of conventional diet rules to help herself as well as others to recover and avoid burnout. Welcome, Kathleen.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here.
We are glad you are here. So that grand old question I have for you is, first, share with me your take on the meaning of burnout, and then we'll get to talking about some specialties that you have.
Yeah, I think a lot of people can relate to this is kind of what you had mentioned earlier is when I was experiencing burnout, I didn't really realize that I was going through it. I was a little bit in denial about it, but I really had this moment where I thought I was just stressed out, it's like, this is what it's like to be stressed. It is what it is. I'll get through it. But eventually it got to a point where I couldn't function the way that I needed to in order to continue to keep moving forward. Like I was healthy, I was doing all the things, but I had no energy. I couldn't sleep, like I couldn't function. And, the real wake up call was my husband, who has, he's an observer. He's like, I read this article about burnout symptoms and I feel like you kind of have all of them, it's like, but I wasn't myself, and I really kind of lost my zest for everything that I was doing.
Mm-hmm. So low to motivation, low energy, all those, when you say losing your zest, is that what you mean?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right. Tell us a little bit more about you. You have some specialties, and I think that the audience should know that you are someone with authority to understand that the importance of speaking with them. So we're going to help them to be in their listening ear. Tell us about your specialty.
Yep. So I'm a health coach, and what I do specifically is I provide nutrition and lifestyle coaching to busy professionals, because I know exactly what it's like to kind of be in those shoes, right? And the thing with a lot of busy professionals is they need help simplifying things to getting healthy and feeling good in their bodies again. A lot of my clients, they're so confused about what they should even be eating, why they're not losing weight, how do they actually support their metabolisms. I think there's so much information out there, and really through my own experience trying every wellness diet out there to take care of my own health, I've kind of realized that the diets are actually part of the problem, right? So kind of, how do I simplify this? Let's just kind of take a more common sense approach. Let's focus on actually just eating real food, listening to our bodies. How do we eat in a way that's actually sustainable and in a way that's fueling our body so that our body has the tools it needs to de-stress and really start thriving again.
Mm-hmm. I think that's very interesting when you say that, paraphrasing, that dieting is stressful. A lot of times we have a negative connotation on the word dieting. So do you mean literally in your experience that you were dieting? Or do you mean the type of diet or your eating habits? Can you clarify that? And then tell us about your story around overcoming burnout and the role that the nutrition played for you.
Absolutely. And that's a really great point. I mean, diet probably in both senses, right? I think the way that I'm eating, in terms of this is just how I eat. This is what I think it's healthy, right? So for me, that was really minimizing processed foods, really not eating any carbs. Like, probably, I really had this belief that sugar was horrible, that healthy carbs were horrible. And so I never ate them, right? So I think that in itself was actually very restrictive and stressful to the body, right? Because it wasn't getting all the nutrients that it needed. And then dieting more in the traditional sense of, oh, I want to lose weight or change my way of eating. Change in general is stressful to the body, right? It's kind of always wanting to maintain this baseline way of surviving. It wants to know what to expect from your body. So when you're changing, it's already stressful. If you're trying to lose weight, that's also stressful, right? Like, it takes energy for your body to be like, okay, this is what we're doing now. It's like, we're not getting the amount of food I'm used to getting. Like, we need to adjust. So it's kind of twofold. I love that question.
Okay. All right. And so your story around the overcoming burnout and the role of nutrition, tell us how that really played into your modification or your realization.
Yes, absolutely. So I'm sure, as many of your listeners can probably identify with, I've always kind of been a bit of a high performer. And I took with that very seriously. Like, I need to take care of myself. Like, wellness is very important to me. So I made sure that I was waking up early, getting my sleep. I exercised every single day. And I was very meticulous about fueling my body with good foods. And I kind of got to a point where I was so stressed out that all of the things that had always worked for me, like exercise and being low carb, they stopped working. Like, my health actually started to go in the wrong direction. My sleep was getting worse. My periods were starting to become irregular. My energy was starting to get really low. My cravings were really bad, like all this stuff. And I was like, I don't understand. I feel like I'm doing everything I'm supposed to be
All right.
doing.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I started really holding on to weight that was really never a problem for me before. And I think this is where a lot of people start to feel like, oh, this is just part of aging. It just must be what it is, right? Um, and all along, I thought the last problem would be kind of the food and my self care and all the good positive things that I was doing. But I did what, maybe not what a lot of people would do, but because I was experiencing physical manifestations, I was always getting sick. I actually ended up just quitting my job. And I was like, I need to take a minute to step away, take care of myself, de stress. But really, I blamed my job for a lot of my health and stress issues.
Okay.
Yet the health still wasn't getting better because I was still exercising like crazy. I was still eating the same way. And I had to get really honest with myself of like, why isn't my health improving? I thought that my job was what was super stressful. I've taken that lever away. And I had to kind of start looking at, okay, what am I eating? This obviously is not working for me because my body is screaming at me like I was not getting better.
Yeah, honesty is the key. So when you're saying that you became honest and you acknowledged that the possibility of having dishonesty with yourself, although it was unintentional, I'm wondering where that then led you. Were you able to then create a roadmap from that acknowledgement, that experience? And then how do you think it impacted your approach to working with not only yourself, but with clients today?
Yeah, it's so interesting, the honesty part, because it really was kind of, I was very resistant to it for in the beginning, right? I was in denial about it. I was like, well, this is what all the experts are saying. This is what all the science says. Like, it doesn't make any sense that it wouldn't work for me. And, I think when you're an overachiever, it's like you can do things by the book and you're great at executing, right? But I really had to start kind of becoming much more introspective and becoming more reflective, right? It's like, okay, what beliefs do I have going on, maybe about food or about health or even about myself, that I'm sitting here with so much stress? What do I need to unpack? And I had to start dedicating a lot more time to not doing, and reflecting. And I would say that that was part of my roadmap, is to just kind of reconnecting, like, okay, what is my body telling me? Tuning out the outside noise and really just starting looking inside, because I think that's where I started to go in the wrong direction is, okay, tell me what to do, I'll do it. Right.
Mhm. Yeah.
This is what all the experts say, just tell me what to do. But it's like, if your body knows you better than you do, right? Like it knows what it's
Right.
doing. We kind of need to trust it. And that's part of the process. And that's really how I work with my clients now as well, right? I think that I realize that the way that we eat can also be a huge stressor to our bodies, right? And
Yeah.
our bodies today, I mean, it's 2021, whether it's emotional or physical, it doesn't really discern what kind of stress you're going through. It's all connected. The same stress hormones are, running around in your body. And what I like to tell all my clients too is, if you think about your body as a bucket, and anytime you experience any kind of stressor, whether that's emotional or from the environment or from your food, it adds kind of a drop into that bucket of stress. And eventually there's going to be that one last drop that makes it overflow, right?
Mhm.
And that's when you start experiencing symptoms, you don't feel good, and you really need tools to start emptying that. So yes, stress management is super important, but nutrition is also a great way to maintain that, stress management in a super massive way, because we need food to survive, right? You're eating all day long, all day, every day. And changing how I was eating and, being honest with myself, right? It really helped me overcome burnout. I realized that I needed to be properly fueling my body,
Mhm.
supporting my metabolism, and not under eating or cutting out food groups, because even then I thought I was healthy, right?
Right.
And so that's how I work with my clients, is really allowing them and holding that space for them to be like, okay, how do I feel when I actually eat this? What is my body telling me?
Hmm. So let's take all these things into context and kind of put them in layman's terms so other people can understand. If I understand your honesty right, uh,
Yeah.
then you are stating that as a result of the choice of foods, it can either hinder or move you forward with productivity. And in the midst of that, if you are eating things that do not agree with your body, then the symptoms of stress that manifest themselves out in maybe thoughts, that's relevant to your mindset, low motivation, low energy. So these are the symptoms of these particular stress. And then they start speaking out loud to other areas of your body. And so that's where being lethargic comes from, poor sleeping habits, or even what people don't really admit, oversleeping, overeating as a means to be able to um, fix themselves, if you will, or comfort themselves. And so the comforting is as a result of the stress, because I don't know how to handle what is going on. So let me go to either the familiar or something that is more satisfying me right now, because I can't be satisfied over here. My business is not bringing in enough money. I don't know what to do. I'm only one or two people who's working here, so at least I have control over this. And so then that can bring on depression, anxiety, and the list goes on and on. And those are some of the symptoms that people are afraid to contest to. They're afraid to be honest about, because that's where burnout really can take you at the end of its course if you don't watch out. Now, what people don't realize, and when you're working with your particular clients, they don't realize that they're doing things that's not supporting them. And you talked about food as one, but what would be other things?
Things that are stressful that aren't related to food. Is that
Yes,
what you
or however you want to answer. Uh-huh.
I think that kind of looking at things holistically, right? Like food is one piece, but kind of like you said, I think you really hit the nail on the head, is the honesty piece, right? I think that what coaching does for a lot of people is I hold space for kind of, it's like a mirror, right? I can listen to what you're saying and say things back to you, but until you hear it said out loud, you don't really realize that that's actually what you're experiencing, right? I think that the first step and the hardest part is the honesty so that you can move forward, right? Because if you don't have the awareness, right, then there's no problem to solve. Um, um, but yeah, I mean, at any time that you don't feel, super excited, full of energy, you just feel a lot of resistance anywhere in your life, right? Whether that is physical or emotional, it means that something is off balance, right? Like
Mhm.
that's not our natural state, right? Like our natural state is to wake up, fully aligned, to feel happy, super excited about what we're doing and passionate. So, one of the tools I do work with my clients on is yes, absolutely the food, but let's look at some of the other areas of your life that maybe you don't feel so satisfied with that is now causing kind of an emotional craving, let's say, kind of what you were mentioning before, right? Using food to cope or things like that. So maybe in your career, things aren't going as you had hoped, or, your home is super messy.
Mhm.
That can be very
Mhm.
stressful, right?
Right.
Like just kind of the context of everything we're going through today, you don't feel as fulfilled in your relationships, like that's a super big
Right.
part of health and mental health. So it's really kind of digging into what are some of the other areas in your life that maybe are blocking you from being able to kind of step into who you really are.
Right. And there's a large component of this particular conversation. This is just a drop in the hat, if you will. And so I plan on exploring these particular things much more on this particular channel. For an example, you may mention of your house being messy. Well, please believe that your exterior is a mirror of your interior. So if you are cluttered in the inside, not clear, can't think, can't focus, poor judgments, just the list goes on, then don't be surprised that your outside will show up that way. Your desk cluttered, your mailbox cluttered, your email, your house cluttered. Don't be surprised because those are telltale signs. And a lot of times that I help people to understand the red flags of burnout, there are some things that you can notice prior to them really coming into fruition. And so, with that being stated, lastly, share with us, Kathleen, health coach Kathleen, what do we need to start doing now to support our bodies?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, first kind of take inventory about, the areas physically where you're not feeling good, right? Like, is it your sleep? Is it your digestion? I think that we need to have kind of those markers of where we want to start seeing progress, right? And kind of the quality of your foods, right? Like you hear it all the time, like less processed food, this and that. But truly, like the higher quality the food is, the more you're able to take the nutrients in, right? You want to be able to take as much nourishment from the foods that you're putting into your body. That is super critical. And then kind of big thing I see with a lot of the clients I'm working with is they're under eating, right? Like make sure that you're actually eating enough. Don't skip meals. Don't eat snacks as meals. Don't restrict entire food groups. That's kind of where I realized that I was going wrong too, right? Is you're literally not giving your body fuel. And then one of the simplest things you can do is also balancing your blood sugar because that is kind of helping your body not feel stressed out. This is when people kind of probably eat, let's say, a bagel for breakfast, and then a few hours later you start feeling sluggish, right?
Mhm.
And then you're reaching for that sugar. That's your blood sugar going crazy. So making sure that if you're eating a carb, you're also eating a protein. You need to kind of pair those so that you can maintain that consistent energy.
Okay, so where can the audience find you online?
Right now, I am on Instagram. You can find me at the Kathleen Fitzgerald.
Okay. All right. And lastly, if you were to, we would go out with a message, what is something that you really would want the audience to know about this process of taking control of their nutrition so that they can play hard at work and play hard at home?
I would say that anything that you believe you can have, right? I think it starts with the mind, but also be kind to yourself. It doesn't have to be this big overnight transformation of like, okay, now I'm here and now it's overwhelming. I can't change all of my food, right? Make small goals, like don't commit to things that you're not willing to commit to forever, drinking more water, walking more, like having a piece of fruit more often. Like it doesn't have to be big, crazy changes. That's where I see people really get stuck, is
Okay.
more than they can chew.
Okay. Well, Kathleen, thank you so much for being a guest with us. We appreciate it. And we look forward to communicating with you in the future. So, audience, make sure you go ahead and connect with Kathleen to get more tips and strategies in terms of nutrition, as she is a health coach. Well, thank you so much, guys. You know that we're here every Thursday. Feel free to go to the YouTube channel, the Chantay Golson consulting firm YouTube channel, where you can pick up all of the podcast shows by video, and you can also get us on any podcast distribution, and we'll be there for you for your listening ear as well. So make it a great day. Do something for yourself. Be productive, and don't overwork. See you later.
Thank you. Bye.